Hi everyone, this tutorial is focusing on installation of a calendar replication between the telephony, diversion and support system Vision8020 version 2.5 and Microsoft Exchange 2010. Since the installation and configuring phase is pretty alike for the Exchange 2007 and 2010, this tutorial will probably come in handy for installation towards either one of them, even for all the versions of Vision8020 for that matter. I will mention the differences along the way. Remember to follow the manual during the installation, even though you have seen this tutorial, since this video is only a complement to the actual manual. So, starting with Exchange Server. The first thing we need to do is to create an account, which will be used for reading the events from each mailbox in the mailbox database. This account only needs to be a domain user if installing the Exchange connector on the Vision8020 server. If you are installing the Exchange connector on the Exchange server, we recommend you to create an account with domain admin rights. Create the account in the Active Directory. You can name it whatever you want, but in this tutorial I will use the account name Vision8020. When setting the password, remember to check the box Password never expires. If not, the password will need to be changed after a month and the Vision8020 server will no longer have access to the mailboxes after that. We also recommend that the Vision8020 user itself has its own mailbox, since having a mailbox grants it some extra permissions to the default domain user rights. To do this, open up the Exchange Management console and add a mailbox to the existing user. Next, let us also create a mailbox for the not yet created user in Vision8020, which I will use for an example later. Let us name it Test Account. Okay, the next and last thing we need to do is to grant the Vision8020 account impersonation rights. The impersonation rights will grant the account the possibility to read other mailboxes, which is critical for the Exchange connection to work. This is made through some PowerShell scripts found in the manual that comes with your Vision8020 server installation. There are 3 different pairs of scripts in this manual. One pair for a standard installation of Exchange 2010, one pair for a standard installation of Exchange 2007, and one pair for an Exchange 2007 with multiple mailbox databases or servers. As I said, all the scripts can be found in the manual, but I will add them in the description below as well. I'll copy the scripts from the manual and add it to the management shell. Also, remember that the scripts in the manual also uses the Vision8020 user. If you have chosen to use a different account name, you'll have to change it before you run it in the management shell. When you now press enter, you should be given a result presented in yellow color, which also means the impersonation was successful. If the answer from the management shell is red, something is wrong. Consult with your Exchange technician in this case. After the first command line is done, continue to run the second one. The same thing here, the result from the script should be in yellow color. And that's about it for the Exchange server. Now let's move on to the Vision8020 server. Let's open the attendant application to create an account to test with. I'll name the role test account and gives it a random extension number. I also give the role the same email address as I recently created on the Exchange server, test.account@vulab.net. Now, let us install the actual Exchange connection. The install file can be found in the install folder of the Vision8020 root catalog. Remember though, this installation file can be out of date, so we recommend you to download the latest one, which can be found on our partner web. In this folder, you can find two different installation files, one for the Exchange 2003 connection and one for the Exchange 2007 and 2010 connection. Let us use the file for Exchange 2010 connection. The first thing we need to do here is to specify the address of the central system, which is the Vision8020 server. The ports below is nothing that needs to be changed. It's just standard ports for the different processes involved with the Exchange connection. Also, the last field should be blank if not using a partition-based system. In that case, type the ID of the partition here. You can choose if you want to save the connection settings in the registry or in the database. If you are connecting the Vision8020 system to one Exchange server, it really doesn't matter. If you want the Exchange connector to be able to connect to multiple exchanges, in example for different customers in a partition-based system, you'll need to choose the database option, since the registry can't handle more than one connection info. Even though I will only connect to one Exchange server in this tutorial, I will choose the database option to get the real interface for the options later. Next, I will need to specify database related access info. First, the IP address to the database, which is the same as the central system in this case. The account to access the database is always root. The password for the root account should be known by the person installing the system. If in doubt, contact Visionutveckling helpdesk to receive the password. The database name is always Vision8020 as standard when installing the system. And last, choose what kind of SQL you are using on the Vision8020 system. In the next window, first specify the external address of the Vision8020 server. This is the info the Exchange server uses for knowing where the Vision8020 server can be found and where the events should be sent. In this case, since the Exchange and the Vision8020 server is in the same net, I can specify the same IP as before. Port 8080 is standard, so check that this port is open between the Exchange server and the Vision8020 server. Remember that we were saving all the info in the database? That is not completely true. Some info is always saved in the registry, such as info that was specified in the installation step. For example, the external IP of the Vision80 server used by the Exchange. If you, for example, specify the wrong IP during the installation, you need to change it in the registry. These settings can be found under HKey, local machine, software, Visionutveckling, Exchange 2007. And that's it for installing the Exchange connector. Our next move is to make the last configuration in the admin interface of Vision8020. Let's have a look on the admin interface. Select the tab Microsoft Exchange under Calendar Replication and choose the tab Exchange 2007-2010. Almost all these fields need to be filled in order to get the Exchange connection to work properly. Let us start with the Exchange address. As for the port number here, this lets the Vision8020 server know how to connect to the Exchange via the event web service address, which is where the events are being transferred. There are two options here. Either we use HTTP, which is port 80, or via HTTPS, which uses port 443. Since Exchange 2010 only supports HTTPS, we have to specify 443 here. Next, we specify the account being used to read and handle the events from different mailboxes. As you remember, the account with impersonation rights used for this is called Vision8020. Specify the same password here as you specified on the Exchange server when creating the account. Specify the domain and the NetBIOS domain of the Exchange. This info can be received from the Exchange technician if in doubt. Since we want to sync contacts from the Exchange server, just calendar events this time, we can skip the second and third row from the bottom, leaving us only one row left, the IP address for the Exchange connector, which is installed on the Vision8020 server. Remember to save the changes when done. By the way, here are some tips when having trouble choosing the XDI link. In some cases this list is blank. This is because the XDI link has been commented in the configuration file in the database. This was done in early versions of the Exchange connector, and you are experiencing this because you didn't download the latest installation package before installing. Don't worry, we can fix this manually. Open the EDBD tool found on the shortcut folder located on your desktop. Open the VFS folder under the Vision8020 database or under the workspace database if running an older version of Vision8020. Open the conf folder and double-click the pxti XML file. Inside the xti clients tag, delete the two X dashes, which will make the rows commented out, and enable the xti link option in the admin interface. Okay, the next thing we need to do is to check if the specified data is correct. We ask us the question, can Vision8020 server reach the Exchange with this information? Open the web browser you're choosing. Specify the protocol HTTP or HTTPS depending on what port you are using, the address to the Exchange followed by the relative URL. If the address and port is correct, you should encounter a login window. Here, type the domain followed by a backslash and a username. In this case, VULab /Vision8020. Specify the password in the row below. If everything is correct, you should see a lot of XML info like this. If you get a HTTP error, something is wrong between the Exchange and the Vision8020 server, and you probably want to check that the firewall isn't enabled or blocking ports on the Vision8020 server, or that it is open on the specified ports on the Exchange. If you have specified the wrong username or password, you will be asked for your credentials again, as you can see. Okay, let's have a look if the Exchange replication is working properly with the data specified in the admin interface. To make sure that the running Exchange connector has received the new data, let's restart it to make it reload the settings. The service of interest here is the one called Vision8020 Exchange connector, also known as the ms-Excch connector from previous versions. Stop it and kill the process pxti. The process pxti is handling the subscriptions of all the different mail addresses found in Vision8020. So we want to restart that one as well. Kill it and it will restart automatically. After that, start the Exchange connector again. Let's have a look in the folder for the Exchange replication we installed. First we can see an SDB file. This file contains info about what email addresses pxti is subscribing to. You can open it and you can also delete it if the Exchange connector is stopped. If so, it will be created again at the service startup and a new check for subscriptions will be made. This can be worth trying when having problems with subscriptions. In EDBD, choose File and add SQLite database. Specify the name of your choosing for a new database. Point out the SDB file. And click OK. As you can see, but only one in this case, email addresses currently subscribed are listed here. In earlier versions, you may get an error in the EDBD tool when opening the SDB file. This is because a DLL file can't be found. To fix the problem, copy the file SQLite3.dll from the Vision8020 root folder to the same folder the SDB file is located. Then try open the table in the EDBD tool again. Next is the store folder. In this folder, events are stored while other events are being handled by the Exchange connector. This folder should be empty. If not, it means that events are transferred from the Exchange but are not being handled by the Exchange connector. You should find the answer for this in the log for the Exchange connector, which I will show you in a second. Next is the actual Exchange connector program, which is running as a service. CalTouch is a program to manually replicate events from the Exchange. I will show you this later. As I said, there is a log file for the Exchange connector and it is located in this folder. this log file are of great interest for us, both when setting up the replication and when troubleshooting it. In this log file we can see what is being sent to the Vision8020 server from the Exchange, how it connects and so on. So when troubleshooting the Exchange connector, you will probably get answers in this log. Here we see how the Exchange connector is connecting to the Exchange. We see some errors from earlier before we specify the connection info in the admin interface. We also see that a mail address has been found and that the subscription is working as well. Let's find out. Let's go to the Exchange server once again and log into the account via the webmail. I will create an appointment and give it a subject which Vision8020 can refer to with a reason code to create a suitable diversion. Let's name it Test Lunch. Also I select the status busy. I will show you why later. Now let's see what happens in the Exchange connector log. The event is showing in the log. Let's see if the attendant application receives it as well. It did! And also the correct diversion is made. Lunch from today 1500 to 1600 with the signature OL, which stands for Outlook. Let me show you some of these statuses in the Outlook client. As you know, there are 4 different: free, tentative, busy and away. You can select how Vision8020 should handle these by check or uncheck the boxes for leave phone open and do not create diversion. If events are showing in the Exchange connector log, but not in the attendant application, verify that these options are correct. You can also make some other changes under this tab to change how events is being handled. For example, you can set up a special character to make certain calendar events being handled differently than others, like introducing the subject of a booking with an exclamation mark. To, for example, skip the presentation of the booking or whatever you choose the character to do. Now let's have a look on the CalTouch program. This program, which comes with the replication software installed, as I earlier mentioned, a program to manually sync older events already created before the installation of the Exchange replication. Vision8020 does not know that these bookings exist since the Exchange hasn't told it yet. Before we run the sync, let's have a look on these settings. Yeah, they seem okay. You can add users by import all users found in the Vision8020 database, or add specific addresses manually. You can also specify how many days ahead the bookings have to be to get synced. In example, if bookings that will occur in a year from now should be synced, there's a risk that too many bookings starts to being transferred, that both the Exchange and the Exchange connector gets heavily loaded. If the configuration has been made for replication of contacts, you can also sync these with the CalTouch as well. As you can see, one booking, which is the only booking on the Exchange in this case, has been synced. If we want a closer look on what happened, there is also a log file for the CalTouch. You can also see the transferred event in the Exchange connector log. And here we have a warning. Let's have a close look on that one. As you can see, it's only a warning regarding an email item which was transferred to the Exchange connector. The Exchange connector doesn't handle email items, only bookings and contacts, thus the warning. Let's have a closer look on what's happening to an event that's being replicated. First, the event is created on the Exchange server. The event is being pushed or pulled over the EWS. EWS, you remember the web address? To the Exchange connector. pcalsync, which is a process, is taking care of it and writes it to the database in the correct format. When the time comes for the booking to be presented for the attendance in the attendance software, preplicera handles it and presents it. This is also the same way you should troubleshoot, for example, a missing booking. Does it occur in the Exchange connector log? If yes, can you find it in the pcalsync log? If yes, can you find it in preplicera? Let's have a look on these other logs mentioned. On your desktop there should be a Vision8020 folder which contains a shortcut to the log folder. Open this folder and you should access them. You can see both the email address and the new item is shown here in the pcalsync log. Also in preplicera the booking exists. So let's say that the booking that I was creating would occur a year from now. Would it show in preplicera then? The answer is of course no. The tenant doesn't need to know about the booking that far ahead. So the booking exists only in the database till preplicera decides it's time to present it. These rules can be set up in the admin interface as well. Let's do some more troubleshooting. I'll stop the Exchange connector and delete the log file. This is because since a new log file will be created, it will be easier to read. Let's say that we were informed of an incorrect IP address to the Exchange server. How does this show in the logs? Let us also create a new booking in the calendar. And restart pxti. As you see, we get pretty logical errors in the log, which draws me to the conclusion that even a technician with very little experience of the Vision8020 system could guess what the problem is. Many problems can therefore either be solved through just reading the Exchange Connector log and/or Google, since errors often is in plain Microsoft Exchange error messages. But if you have troubles that you can't solve, send an email to helpdesk@Visionutveckling.se.